Okay. I'm sorry we're having to communicate with hand actions. Hi, everybody. I am Marisa Very. I am the owner and operator of Pretty Little Yarns, and I'm here to take you through a little tour of what we've got to show today. Let me get back into my little PowerPoint. And I hope everybody's having a great day. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about my suppliers, do some indie dyer spotlights, show you some of the dyers that we've got, and we've got some sales on just for you guys with a code, which you'll see again in a minute, as well as talk about our looms that we have and some weavers palette, fiber and yarn, and a little demonstration of some weaving. So if you have any questions along the way, pop them in the chat. I should soon have someone who's flagging me down for those things. And I really wish I knew why I'm not hearing people, but hopefully I will see the chats some way or another.
Well, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
So this is just a little rundown of all of the suppliers that we work with. We have Sweet Paprika Designs, which if you have been on the stream all day, you will have seen them as the last presenters. They're wonderful. We also have Bling Your String, which does our bags, and Yarn Indulgences, Essence of Autumn. I'm going to get through all of this stuff in the coming slides. But before I do, I wanted to point out Cascade Yarns, because I'm not going to be doing too much talking about them later on, but we have one of their lines on sale with the promo code at the bottom of your screen there, FLA15. You'll get 15% off of this Avalon line, which I'm going to show you a little bit closer up. Here we go. So this is the Avalon line. We have several colors. These are just a few that I thought were kind of cute. It is a 50% cotton, 50% acrylic line, and it's great for baby clothes, kids' clothes, summer knits, that sort of thing, as you would imagine. So those are on sale for 15% off this weekend, actually for the whole week, in honor of the show. And without further ado, move on to, I mentioned already that we carry some of Sweet Paprika's things. We have 3 of their bases and their gradients, but as they are another vendor here, I don't want to spend too much time talking about them because I hope that you will shop with them this weekend. Yarn Indulgences is another indie dyer that we carry, and they are based now in the East Coast. They used to be in local to us. We're in Ontario, but they have moved out east to, I want to say, New Brunswick. And they have beautiful yarns, and they are also included in our 15% off sale. We carry 4 different bases of theirs. And I'm just going to switch again so I can show you them again. So this is one of their indulgent grand style. All of the colorways we carry from Yarn Indulgences are exclusive to our shop, so you won't find them anywhere else. And this base is lovely because it's merino wool and silk, and it's 600 yards in the skein, so it gets you a long way. We also have their cash merino lace, which is another lace weight. So it's again 575 yards in this skein. So it gets you a long way in your projects. We have their Zlux sock line, which is obviously sock yarn, and it is a merino cashmere nylon sock yarn. And so we've got that in several colors. And lastly, we have this Z Merino, which is their DK Sport base. I want to apologize for our lighting. It's a little bit harsh today because here it is just coming on evening. So it's like a weird time to light for, because the sun is starting to set and do all its fun things. So moving onwards, the next dyer I wanted to highlight is Sinister Yarns. They have been one of our the first lines that we brought on, and they have bold, funky, vibrant colors, which I love. So I thought I'd show you some of their funkier things first, if that's your jam. So this line here is called Twisted Tweed. And it's like your typical tweed with the black flecks in it, but it's just in these like really great colors. I'm gonna try and see if they're not quite as intense as it's showing on the little camera. But they're really perfect for, I always thought that it would be so much fun to make like a little baby sweater in this one with like a duplicate stitch skull in black on it as like a really punk rock baby girl sweater, but that could just be me. And they also have some really stunning not so brights. So we have this combination, they go together, the green matches with the green in there, and it's a really pretty combo. This is not quite the same as getting to squish and touch the yarn, but I hope you're getting the kind of idea that you would if you were able to squish and touch the yarn. This is a superwash merino single ply, and it's got, again, this one has this matching color that works together. Here. And we have also Essence of Autumn. They are one of our newest vendors who we work with, and they are also wonderful. I don't work with anybody who I don't think is wonderful, because I wouldn't want to, A, I wouldn't want to work with them if they weren't wonderful, and B, I only work with people whose yarn I really love, because I want you to all really love it. So this is Essence of Autumn, and they have really rich, sophisticated colors. I like to have a different kind of vibe from each of the dyers that I carry. So everybody's got a little something that makes them unique, and I like to showcase that. So here is, so this is their Pasture Sport, which is a BFL non-superwash. It is not showing up the way I'd want it to, because the lighting is not working as though I'd wanted it to. It is a nice red and brown combination. We also carry their Gilded Merino, which, if you can see, it has some beautiful sparkles in it. It's got the stellina, some gold stellina. They also have a sock base, Prairie Sock. They've got a couple of sock bases. This is Prairie Sock, which is superwash merino and nylon. And this one is Heather Sock, which has cashmere in it as well. So it's very, very soft. You can see some of the intensity of their colorways better in the actual photographs, because the lighting is a little better. So they have like really beautiful little hits of color and different kind of tonals and things like that. And it's really wonderful to work with. I'm just going to pop over and see if I have missed anything in the chat while I've been talking. Oh, Andrew's chatting. Do I have a swatch of the Twisted Tweed? I don't have a swatch, unfortunately, but it works up the same as your typical tweed would, with the little flecks of black in it. And then it just happens to be in the bright colors. I will leave Andrew to do all of the chatting for now and switch back over to this. The next dyer that I'm going to show you is me, which always feels a little, I'm still, sorry for all the crinkling. I'm not really a new dyer anymore, but I still feel like a new dyer in that I'm not used to talking about myself as a dyer yet, but I am one. And so we have some of my yarns here with me. I have a whole collection called the Crystal Collection, which is all based on different crystals. Like you see on the page, there's rose quartz in the pink, in the middle is phantom amethyst, and on the right side is sodalite. So those are all based off of different crystals and the colors that the crystals are. But I also have some different, we call them rare gems. And those are just one-of-a-kind colors that I've come about making because I was inspired by something. And sometimes you just have to get your inspiration down on the yarn, even if it doesn't match your collection. So we've got a few different things like that and some limited edition colors. But I've got some of these to show you as well. I'm wondering if I do this, if it might be a little bit easier for you to see the colors. So this is carnelian on my my sport base. This is that sodalite color on the sport base also. And then on the fingering base, this is red jasper. And this is howlite. I think my favorite thing about, I always said that I wasn't going to become a dyer. I was a knitter first, and then a crocheter, and then a spinner, and I blend fiber. And I always said, no, I'm not going to dye. And then one day, of course, I started dyeing, and then I started weaving. And so now I just, and I needle felt. I just do all of the things. And so I think that one of my favorite things about doing that is that I get to collaborate with so many people. So obviously, as you can see from my shop, there are a lot of people I work with just generally in terms of having vendors. But what's been wonderful as a dyer has been that I get to collaborate in different ways with the dyeing community, which has been wonderful. So here are a couple of examples of that. I'm going to just close me off for a second so you can see it. But I did the Crocs by the Campfire on the left was a collaboration with Stitch Noir, which is another dyer here in Ontario. And we went on a Instagram live together, and we both had the same photograph to dye from. And we both dyed yarn while we were kind of chatting with each other and working together. And it was kind of fun. And we came out with totally different yarns, obviously, but it was all based on the same inspiration color or the inspiration picture. So that was a lot of fun. And then the Curiously Wild was another project that I collaborated with Melanie from, oh my goodness, Pinecone. I think her company is called Pinecone Knits. Of course, it would escape me while I'm talking, but she had a whole concept where she paired up with other makers and dyers, and the whole concept was around creatures in the wild that work together. So mine happened to be clownfish and anemone. So she dyed a pairing of yarn that went with my clownfish. I did clownfish and she did anemone. So it's been really fun to get to know the dyeing community and the knitting community a bit better by doing all of these collaborations. And I think that that's maybe something that when you're a knitter and you're interacting with the different dyers and the different shops, you don't maybe see how much community there is, even as dyers and shops, where a lot of industries, I think there's a lot of competition. And in our industry, I feel really blessed that we're all very collaborative and inspired by each other, and it's a lot of fun. So next, I'm going to show you something that usually I would be doing a demonstration of this in my past presentations. That's what I've done has demonstrated how I make my felted stitch markers, but today we're going to do something a little different. So I do have some felted stitch markers though to show you, because I do think that they're quite cool. So I needle felt all of these for our shop, and I have so much fun with them, I have to say, because it's just such a challenge to get them to look the way I want. So my latest ones for the Thanksgiving and Halloween included this little gourd, who is very detailed but hard to show without being in person, unfortunately, and this little pumpkin. So I'm going to switch to the other camera and see if you can see it a bit better there. Sometimes on the tiny things, it doesn't like to focus, but I will try. That's the little pumpkin. And this is the little gourd. If you have a chance to check out my Instagram page, you will see how I made the gourd. I have it on there for anybody who wants to watch. So those actually are, oh my goodness, I've lost my spot here. Those are a line that I don't think I've ever seen anybody else make stitch markers with needle felting, but I could be wrong. So I think that they're pretty exclusive to us. And I actually have a set waiting for you at the end of this presentation as a giveaway. So hopefully you'll be able to stick around until the end, and then you can take your very own home if you're the lucky winner. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about is kind of the highlight of our show today. So excuse the rustling while I get the things, but I wanted to talk to you about our looms. So we have a whole line of looms that we carry that are from Chip and Sparrow. And I don't know how many people here are in Ontario or whether you're on the West Coast, but if you're in Ontario, Chip and Sparrow is located in Guelph, which is about half an hour from where we are located. So for us, it's super local, but it is Canadian made, even if you are out West. And they have some really beautiful products. So I'm going to just show them off to you before I start doing a demonstration with them. So first, I'm missing one. Always the one that you want the most is at the bottom of the thing, you know? Okay. We have multiple different looms. So this is their mini loom. It has a round option or a square option, and you can use them and reuse them. And I love using them with scrap yarn, which is what you're going to see coming up next. And I'm probably not supposed to tell you that because I'm probably supposed to be trying to sell you yarn to weave with, but I think that it's super valid to just use the scrap yarn you have at the end of your projects. And I think it's a really fun way to kind of record the projects that you've done, and you have those little scraps. And I don't know about anybody here, but I'm often gifting my crafts. So by weaving something afterwards, I end up getting something of those crafts as well. So that's just, it's about 4 inches. And the square ones I like because you can seam the things together at the end, but the round ones are really lovely for wall hangings or coasters or buntings if you wanted to make decorations. We also have this bracelet loom. So it's clearly long and narrow, so you can make a bracelet, but what I love about it the most is you can also warp your loom at the bottom, which is what I'm going to show you today. And in doing that, you end up making a little pendant for a necklace. And you could use it to make like Christmas tree decorations or things like that as well. But I like to make those little pendants for necklaces, and I think that they're super cute. We have a new, actually, I'll do that one last. So we have a bigger format, which is called the Mezzo Loom. And it's about the size of a tablet, like an iPad or something, which is, again, it's great for making wall hangings. And all of these are great for beginner weavers because they come with a manual on how to warp it and what to do with it. Chip and Sparrow has a lot of videos on their site, so you can follow how to do some tutorials and things like that. They come with the needles that you need to get started. And the larger one also comes with this, I don't know if you can see it, but there's an enormous needle here for weaving across the large one. And it's also got the little wooden comb. On the smaller ones, it doesn't come with the comb. So what I do is I use a fork, which is maybe not very, what's the word? Elegant, but it works. So I highly recommend doing that on the smaller looms. And then this is newest to our collection, and it's the Hexaloom. And Christina from Chip and Sparrow says she designed this one because she wanted a format to be able to make blankets, like almost a, you know how you would make a granny square blanket or something like that, or a patched blanket. This kind of gives you that effect. So you weave the whole thing and then you can seam it together and it will form a blanket, obviously, but it'll have this really beautiful hexagonal shape, which is always kind of fun. And lastly, we have some single-use looms. This is the large size, but it makes this cloud with yarn as rain coming down from it. This is kind of 10.5 inches, I think, or so. And you use Sumac Stitch to make the cloud and the Riot Knots to make the rain. And it comes in a rainbow one, which we're sold out of, but this one is teal. At the back, it's got these teal colors. And then it also has this small version, which is the little guy. And see it right there. Take it out for you so you can see. Sorry for all the crinkling. I'm sure that's really loud. I'm sorry. But it's got this cute little cloud shape. And so you fill it with the Sumac Stitch, and it's all got the pre-cut yarn to make the rainbow or the teal version. That is our other latest things. And we are almost ready to get to our demonstration. But first, I realize that some people might not have as many stash ends as I do. And so if you are stuck for what to use in your weavings, and maybe you don't have odds and ends to use up, I decided to dye up what I call a wee weaver's palette. And so it is, I'll show you, it is a worsted, 20 grams of worsted. Open it. 20 grams of worsted and 20 grams of bulky and 10 grams of BFL and silk top, plus some cotton for warping the loom. And so that you end up with a little collection there that you can put together into your own weaving without having to think too much about what you're putting together. So we've got lots of different colors. They're all loaded up on the site. They just went up there today, just especially for you guys, and they are part of the sale. So the FLA 15 will apply to those as well. And so we've got brown and orange is Harvest. The one I just showed you with the pink is called Soft Kitty for Big Bang Theory. This one is Winterberry. It's like a soft green and a red. If anybody celebrates Christmas and is getting ready for Christmas. I also have this one, which is called Natale, which is Italian for Christmas. And it is both very Christmassy and very Italian looking, come to think of it. And this one is Fiore, which is pale pink and a pale green. And if you want a little bit more excitement in your life, this one is called Jack Flash, and it is probably the most obnoxious green yellow paired with a royal blue. And I kind of love it because it's obnoxious, but your mileage may vary on how you feel about that. And to give an idea of how it works up, this is a weaving I'm working on with one of those kits, and it's not finished because the end of my year has turned out to be much busier than I expected. I don't know about anybody else. Over here in Ontario, things have started opening, and suddenly that means things are happening that I didn't think were going to be happening yet. And suddenly everything feels really busy, even though I know that we were busier before COVID. But apparently, so here is the start of my weaving. So we've got some Riot knots on the bottom. They haven't been trimmed yet because I'm not done and nothing is woven in yet, but this is where we've started. And you can see how the bulky yarn gives this like beautiful texture. And then we've got the plain stitch over here. And I have plans to do like a sumac braid going across like this with the white. So it gives you kind of an idea. So this is the biggest loom that I carry. And the cotton had no problem warping the whole thing. So just in case you're wondering how far it goes, I still have, before I move on to our demonstration, I am not even remotely close to being done any of it. Like I've got lots left still. So it gives you an idea of how far it goes. So that's what I'm working on off screen. But now I feel like you guys have waited long enough. I'm going to show you a little bit about how you can do this on screen. But I'm going to do it with my scraps so that you can get an idea of how that works and also get to see some of what I have going on in my scrap stash. And I get to remember some of what I've got going on in my scrap stash. So let me just. And for everybody who is playing along with the code words or the bingo or the treasure hunt or however it's being called, our code word is weave. So if you have weave, now is the time to add that to your board. All right. So this, as I mentioned before, this is our bracelet loom. I'm going to turn the camera this way so you can see. This is our bracelet loom, and I'm going to just be warping the pendant side of it. So I like to use embroidery cotton. Yuriko is the real weaver pro in this group, I think, but hopefully she'll bear with me as I do this demo. So these looms are intended to be super beginner friendly, and I would call myself intermediate. I'm like a deft hand with these little simple looms, but I couldn't do any of the fancy looms, even if my life depended on it. So I can attest to the fact that they are easy to start with. You just tie a little knot on where this little triangle is. And if you were doing the whole loom, you would warp it by going under here and all the way to the other end. But since we are just doing the little guy, I'm going to come in one because it's a little bit narrower. Actually, I'm going to start on this end, so then we'll know how wide it is. And just kind of go over and under and over and under. And a lot of people have asked me at in-person shows before that whether these are okay for children to use or whether they require like adults and that sort of thing. When my little guy, who is now 7, when he was 5, he made a bracelet with the bracelet loom, and I helped him warp. And other than his attention span, which had nothing to do with the ease of the loom, he was perfectly happy to do it mostly by himself. So if anybody is thinking about these for kids or grandkids, they absolutely can do them. Hopefully I haven't cut that too short. This is probably the most finicky part, I would say, is getting this tied off. I really, really wish that I could get my sound to work, because now would be a part where I would ask anybody who had any questions to chime in and chat with me. I'll take a look at the chat in just a second. So you have your knot over here and your knot over there, and then you've got this little pickup stick that goes just like so under all of these to hold it so that you can weave on it easier. I'm just going to set that there for a quick second while I check on chats. Oh, hi, Pam. I just mailed something to you. I think, did you just order from me recently? From a trunk show? Maybe, maybe not. I feel like I just mailed something out to you. Yes, the Pinecone Project. Thank you, Emily. Thank God that somebody pays attention in this world, because I clearly, my head's not on straight. And thank you, Stephanie. I think they're pretty adorable too, but I'm cocky like that sometimes. All right, so let's start with some Riot knots. So Riot knots are what makes the little fringe. And oh gosh, apparently my scrap stash is a little tangled. So I'm gonna just cut that since I'm cutting it anyways. So the way that you want to do them is not one strand at a time unless you want to really piddly kind of fringe. So if you want to have a bit more of a substantial fringe, my like pro tip to cutting these things is to wrap it around something that approximates what length you want. So I like to use my phone in various directions depending on what I'm doing. So if I wrap it around my phone like this, and please don't ask me what any of the yarn I'm using is, because it's all like, it could be circa 1998 for all I know. It's all jumbled in there in a big mess for just such occasions as this. Then when you're ready, you can, oh, don't stab yourself with the scissors. Pro tip, don't stab yourself with the scissors. And then you just cut it right off, whatever you're using to wrap it. And just like that, you have all of your yarns, which is great because one, and then like unravel it, measure out the next one, cut the next one, and that's tedious and makes you likely want to give up on the whole situation. So to make your Riot knot, you're not going to need to do too much because we're only doing a few little pieces here, but here we'll make it really fluffy because I cut so many of these. So you basically want to lay your yarn over, and you're kind of tucking it under. You lay it over your warp and you're tucking it under it's a little bit finicky because this is so small, but and I warped it really tightly because I was not being kind to myself. But you pull it under like this. And then you do the same thing on the other side so that it kind of makes a horseshoe around the two warps. So before I pull it tight, I'm going to hold it up to the camera. So you can see now it makes this little horseshoe. And then when you tug on it, you can tug which side you want to make it more even. And then you tighten it however much you want to tighten it. And it just makes this little cute little knot. And there you go. I was like, one of these threads is not pulling tightly. And so then it makes this cute little knot and all this fringe hangs down from it. And you don't, I tightened it probably a little too much because it's now making my warp a little bit wonky, but tighten it as much or as little as you need to. And then you do the exact same thing with the next one. And so if you were looking this up, if you wanted to try this yourself, you would be looking up Riot knots, R-Y-A knots. And I also do offer virtual classes, which are a lot of fun. And you wouldn't think that it would be easy to teach a virtual class. And I'm not going to lie and say that it's a piece of cake, but it's actually a lot of fun. And in the class that I've taught of weaving, almost everybody, except for I think two people who it was more of a workshop that I was doing for a group than a full scale class. And so there were a couple of people who didn't really want to participate. They were just watching. And aside from them, everybody else left with a finished weaving, which was really cool. When I'm teaching this, rather than just demonstrating, I would make sure that everybody knew what was happening a little bit better and was able to copy it. But it is, I think, a lot of fun to learn new ways to use the medium that you were most experienced with. So like I said, I've been knitting the longest, and I learned to knit when I was probably about 7. And weaving is the newest thing I've taken up. I'm not super new at it, but it's the newest thing. So I think it's really fun and exciting to see how you can do different things with the same medium. It's kind of like if you've been dating the same person for a really long time, and then you go to like a paint night and suddenly you see that they're, you know, that they have a different side to them. You know, it's taking your yarn on a new date. Here is our second knot, and we have one more to do before we're all knotted up. You can see it's all floofy. Just checking to see if anybody had any messages for me while I'm between knots. Here's the last one. While I do this, I'm just going to keep chatting because otherwise I'm going to forget you guys are there because you're all so quiet. Just to recap, the things that are on sale this weekend, actually this whole week, the sale is going to go on until next Saturday. And the things that are on sale are the Sinister Yarns, the Yarn Indulgences, the Die Pretty, and the Avalon. And those are all available with the coupon code FLA15, and you'll get 15% off of those. And in about 5 or 10 minutes, I'm going to also do a little giveaway for our stitch marker set. So the next thing I'm going to do is a bit of plain weaving, because it's always good to have that as a base to any other stitch you want to do. You want to put at least a couple of rows of plain weave before you move on into any other kind of weaving. So plain weave is very, very simple. You're literally just weaving in and out. So I'm going to do this. I'm just going to grab my little comb because I didn't think to grab myself a fork for this. I can grab my little comb. And maybe cut this a bit long for this purpose, but that's okay. So again, you're just going in and out. And this part I really love. I honestly really like plain weaving, and depending on what yarn you're using, you can get different textures even just doing a plain weave. And they say to have your start and your rows in the middle. I guess that it makes it more structurally stable that way. And yeah, you just go back and forth.
And of course you could add, oh, I missed, see, and sometimes you totally mess it up. I didn't catch the last word. There we go. That's better. What I was going to say is sometimes you can add other things, like you don't just have to use yarn. So one thing I've heard of people doing is at different times of year, they use their loom to collect things on hikes and weave different grasses or leaves into a little seasonal weaving. You can, of course, you can weave in ribbon, you could weave in thread, or obviously yarn, or I don't know what kind of witchcraft you'd be doing, but I guess you could weave in hair. You could do all kinds of things. And use it as, you know, a keepsake of some kind, or a wall hanging, or Christmas decorations. Or I have this goal, which I haven't actually achieved at all, but I really want to make like a little bunting with these on it to hang on my mantle of my fireplace, and then to use that bunting to change with the seasons and the holidays and things like that, with different colors for the different seasons. There's all kinds of things you can do. And of course, this is intended actually to make a necklace or a bracelet. So you can use this to make a little necklace pendant. And there exists little metal kind of clasps that kind of clamp over the end so that you can add it to a necklace easily. So that is just plain stitches. And I think we've got enough going on here now that I can add some, I wanted to show you guys what a sumac stitch looks like. So do this. And once you see a sumac stitch, you're going to say, oh, I know what that is. I've seen that, because it's in all of the funky weavings that you see out there. I like to use something a bit thicker for the sumac stitch, just because it lends itself to that. And so on something this small, so typically you would often see sumac stitch as being kind of under 4 and then back through 2. But because this is such a small little guy, I'm going to do under 2 and back over 1. No, hang on. I've done that wrong. Over and then under, like this. This is my most recently learned stitch, so bear with me. And so then you go over and under the 1. And it ends up making a little kind of slanty braid look once it's completed. I just whacked my lamp. You can see it's kind of, this is where your little fork or comb or whatever you're using gets to be important as you try and fight with the bigger stuff. It doesn't look like much on this little guy, but, and I don't have a bigger one with me to show you right now, but it does ultimately look like a little bit of a braid. So just going to go around that end again so that it is more taut. It's also tricky not to stab through your wool when you're doing this. Like I just did, because it's so thick, right? Then when you're done, it's like so worth it. And all these like wonky ends will get woven in at the end, just the same way you would with your knitting. Do that, and you can see, let me make sure I can see what you can see. Yeah, there you go. It gives that little braid for you. And then you can keep going with some more plain stitch, which I won't bore you with because the plain stitch part is not the most exciting, I know. But that'll be how it goes. And I will continue it and probably finish it later tonight so that I can post it and you can see how it turned out. But I can see that we're running out of time. So I don't want to keep you going on that and miss out on the giveaway. So if you are still with us, thank you. Here we go. So today I wanted to, I'm going to actually disappear me for a second. I wanted to give away one of our stitch marker sets. First I better ask, has anybody watched me do my stitch marker demonstration before? Nobody. Oh, look at all those shaking heads. Okay, well, hopefully Eureka will have me back next time. And next time I will do one. But I fully thought that everyone would have seen me do that already. So I didn't want to bore you by doing it again. But if that's the case, then next time I know what I need to do. I need to do another stitch marker demo. I saw somebody raise their hand to say that they had. So I was going to tell everybody they could, if they could tell me what I needle felted the last time I was here, that they would win the stitch marker. But I don't know if they can remember all that far back, if anybody is there. Alternatively, you can guess. So it was something on this page. So if you can guess which one it was, the first person to guess, ooh, let me see. Looks like Irene said it first, and it was a donut that looked like a bagel. Terry is not wrong. It looked like a bagel, but it was a donut. It just didn't have the sprinkles yet. But I think that I have to give that one to Irene because they posted first. So I hope that that is exciting for you. You are welcome to choose from any one of the ones that are on the screen and just pop into the chat which one you want. So on the right-hand side, those are little macarons, like the little French dessert. We've got lemon, vanilla, chocolate, and pistachio. My husband makes fun of me because I refer to them as flavors instead of colors, but obviously they're flavors.
And then on the left side, you've got the choice of a jelly-filled donut, a Boston cream donut, which is my son's favorite. It even has cream coming out the side. A chocolate donut or a plain donut. So if you want to shoot a little message to say which one you would like me to send to you, and if you can stay on a little bit after, I guess, my husband, Andrew, he will take your information so that we can get your email and get your address and send that out to you. Can you give me a thumbs up when you don't need me to show you this slide anymore? Once you've decided, go ahead and give me a thumbs up so I can switch to the next slide. But I can show you them actually in person. So here is the chocolate one. Get more light on it. And the plain one, which looks like a Cheerio at this scale. This was one of my first ones. It's a little Boston cream. My first donuts in my donut collection. And I don't know how you can see it on the screen, but it has a little puff of cream on the side, which is my favorite random little detail. And here is my jelly filled, which is much like the Boston cream, but it has jelly on the side. And the macarons all look like this, but different colors. So kind of like an Oreo or a macaron, surprisingly. All right. All right, chocolate donut or chocolate macaron? I'll leave you to tell that to Andrew. He will continue to chat with you. And all that remains is a big thank you to everybody for listening to me. You can chat with me by email if you ever need anything. You can find me on Instagram. I'm at Pretty Little Yarns LTD. Don't forget the LTD or else you get a very old account from somebody in Australia. And I'm very active on Instagram. So if you ever need to DM me, I'm super happy to converse with you that way as well. My big head is blocking the code. There you go. And so, yes, so we've got my website over here is prettylittleyarns.ca. And for the rest of the week, the Essence of Autumn, no, not the Essence of Autumn. Now I'm just confusing you. The Yarn Indulgences, the Sinister Yarns, the Die Pretty, and the Cascade Avalon is all 15% off with the code FLA15. And yeah, I hope you've really enjoyed the presentation as much as I have. And I'm really grateful that I was able to do this today. Thank you very much to Eureka for organizing the event. And I am so sorry I can't hear anybody. I will figure that out. But thank you so much. If anyone has any questions, I'm going to stick around a little bit longer on the chat. And thank you for being such a wonderful audience. And oops. Oh, thank you. Oh, the word was weave. Thank you for the reminder. The treasure hunt word was weave.